I swear, between the hat and the hoodie, I am dressed like it's 2005, and today we're talking about a game that certainly didn't launch from that year, because when games were launching back then, they may have not been the best, but they were content complete. Today we're talking about a live service game, my favorite, Fallout 76. We've talked about this game extensively on the channel. Now we really just dip in for every major new update, and I dip in every time with the hopes of loving this product because I adore Fallout. I have the Fallout bug. The new TV show is upon us soon on April 11th. All of the episodes are going to drop. I cannot wait. But this update isn't just any update. And kudos to Bethesda for sticking with this game, because anytime I feel 76 is on its last legs, I've made videos straight up saying I think the game is dead now, and I've been completely wrong. And Bethesda in 2023, I felt the commitment was starting to waver, but I had learned my lesson at that point. And in 2024, they have stormed back with some pretty massive content additions. Today's update, as I said, wasn't just any update. It's the America's Playground update, finally introducing for the first time in the game's lifespan a brand new open world explorable area to add on to Appalachia. So it's no longer just that base game map and expeditions where you go out and kill enemies. You can finally roam these areas, interact with NPCs, pick up quests, hopefully find some dungeons, all of that cool stuff, right? So walking away from this experience now, I can say for sure that I have had this spiritual awakening with 76 and realized that no matter what this game does, I don't think I'm going to be happy, because it always feels like it's a half step away from where it needs to be. And in some ways, this update has really surprised me. The quality bar is definitely starting to raise for 76, although I know the standards for many are low. I know it's an easy target, but I think as someone who has played the game since its launch, really tried to hang with it, I feel like you can see the efforts there. But what I'm noticing is the game is big enough to sustain, but not enough to invest and try to push its growth. It very much knows its place, and so I have just come to that level of acceptance that 76 is not going to do any more than I hope it will. And I'll continue to circle around for those updates, but America's Playground taught me something really important. And it's not one of those typical, Matty, the update's not quite there yet. No, it's more like there are good things here, but they just missed the mark slightly, and I'll explain why. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here and you're into whatever's going on with Fallout, we're going to be talking a lot about it in April, that's for sure. Ladies and gentlemen, consider subscribing if you like all Fallout content. So 76, I'm hoping with this video that you walk away with a lot more information than many provide on this game, because I feel it's an easy one to kick while it's down, right? It had the horrendous launch. It barely crawls out of 2018 and 19 alive. In 2020, you get Wastelanders, and it felt like it was a window. The masses had started to believe again. It felt like this was an answer to what Bethesda needed to do for 76 in the first place, which was make an online PvE game effectively. And each update since then has added to that. They've focused more and more on PvE content, more and more on questing. And so here with America's Playground, we finally get our first open world area, something I've been asking for since the game really first came out. It seemed like such an obvious thing to do. Now, before this, we last talked about 76 in December and how they introduced new expeditions to the game. And these, for those who have never played 76, are gigantic raids, effectively. They're shooting galleries, and this was definitely the prettiest one that 76 had produced. You can say what you will about this game, but I will always defend its art direction. Anytime I fire this game up, I am pulled into that world, and certainly when it comes to Atlantic City and its music and its appearance, the neon signs, everything about it, the noir feel, like they really nailed it. So being able to explore that initially was awesome. The quest starts off with you going to one of the many train stations, reading about this little show that's going on at this opening bar. So you head over to the bar. You have probably one of the most hilarious openings to a Fallout quest I have seen.
I can't listen to this baloney no more. Let's light this place up.
God damn it!
Everyone shut!
Like, this dude just had it. He was not feeling the music here. And so I authentically laughed at that for a couple minutes. I thought that was some great stuff there. And from there, you learn that one of the Russos is hooked on the devil's blood. This is a brand new chem that was introduced in Atlantic City, and the only way to get off it is to get some in your system. And so you head out to Atlantic City. You're dropped into the casino district, which is one of multiple areas that you can explore in this game. And I did expect them to reuse the maps they had built for Expedition expeditions, but the problem really is in how they've structured the content. Again, one thing I'll always defend with 76 is its exploration. I would even go to the length of saying 76's exploration is better than Starfield's. I really do think they have something here in 76 where the wandering is good, the point A to point B is good, as you would in a Bethesda Game Studios game. You see something in the distance that looks unique and interesting, and you go ahead and visit it, check it out, and you're like, oh man, thank God I explored that. And 76 has a lot of those moments, so to bring that to a new location was very exciting because it reminded me of Fallout 3 and its DLC, New Vegas and its DLC, and the potential those brought to the table. And here in Atlantic City, I already knew the art direction was going to be great, so it was just about adding locations to explore. So there's no new map markers. You don't have these new moments of discovery. There's not even a isolated map for this area, which was already a little concerning when I opened it up, because I thought, well, isn't the point to go and see new dungeons and interact with new people and track new quests? So you do have this main quest to track. There are a few side quests also that you can track. But when I went into this one area that was a bar that hosts the family, that's where I started to have that awakening of, man, 76 is always just a half step away. You walk into this, what I would say is a beautiful bar, fully populated. You can hear all the chatter around. It's very full of life. Again, that noir feel is captured excellently here, as it has been throughout all of Atlantic City. But it's just a bunch of nameless NPCs. There's no interaction. I go and talk to one interesting named individual at the top of the bar, and I get to ask him a few questions about the family, and that's nice and all, but there's no quest pickups. There's no interesting moment here, and you realize, oh, this is just a host probably for later main story content. Okay, got it. So you leave, you go on your merry way, and all of these maps that you've already played through, thanks to the expeditions, are connected through sewer grates. So yeah, you click on one and it zips you to the other, and it's as jarring as it sounds. You can tell this was maybe not a part of the original plan. They thought, well, hey, we can reuse these. And the reason this is a little disappointing is because, yes, it's cool in premise, but what it says to me is that my initial gut feeling about 76 and how they were handling the content rollout here was correct, which was when they told us, oh, we have these expeditions, and then we're going to give you America's Playground later because we have so much to give you. I thought to myself, I don't know about that, because right now 76 needs an abundance of content. If you have it, you should probably give it. And since they were expanding the base game map, where I imagine most of their resources were going there, I felt that this update was going to potentially feel more like this sort of shot in the arm. Like, hey, it's something, right? And it's exactly that, right? Like, even though you can roam, not knowing where you're roaming to, no map markers or anything like that, very few quests and interesting NPCs to interact with, it feels hollow, unfortunately. And it has like the life there, but no one of intrigue to really interact with. Now, the main quest itself is entertaining. You head to this show, you dress up as a clown, you can have a choice here whether or not you want to kill someone to send a message, and it changes your quest ending. You fight off, in my case, a bunch of clowns because I chose to kill this guy instead of teaching him a lesson in another way. Overall, the questing in 76 has become much better, not just from an enjoyment and playful sense, but also, like, even voice acting. I thought that it was well performed, whereas that was something I was critical of with Expeditions. And here in 76's update for America's Playground, I thought they actually did a better job making these characters feel lifelike. So much so that the voice performances were starting to shine a stronger light on how dated the engine is, and how, wow, they really need to have some updated facial animations for these characters that are much more expressive, which is something I typically don't say about Bethesda Game Studios games. So I think that is saying something about the vocal performance here. Yeah, the questing is great, but it's like, if you're going to bring in this new open world zone, you've got to fill it with life. You got to make these NPCs more interactable. You have to feed more quests into them, produce new allies that you can bring back to your camp. The loot here is pretty cool. They have a lot of that figured out since the Nuka World on Tour update, which I was very complimentary of. But as you can see here, it's little things here and there. Like, overall, the enjoyment, yeah, it was had. Like, I didn't hate my time here, but I definitely walked away with this almost spiritual awakening, if you will, of going, man, this game just may never satisfy me. And I know what you're thinking. You've probably rolled your eyes or scoffed at your phone, wherever you're listening to this on, and go, oh my God, you're just realizing this now, dude. But here's the thing, right? I don't think it's a surprise to anybody that I love Fallout. I'm a gigantic fan of the franchise, and 76 is kind of the bane of my existence at certain times with how it's treated, why it's operating, and the conclusion I came to is this. Fallout 76 is making enough money and having a big enough player base to sustain itself with updates like America's Playground. But it is not big enough and growing enough to push the envelope a little bit and do something big and exciting and over-deliver. You always get either exactly what you expected with 76, or in my case, typically a little bit less. And experiencing that over and over and over in these 2, 3, 4 hour pockets as I keep re-downloading the game, hoping this update is the moment I can sit in a video and go, Fallout 76 is fantastic. This is the direction. Keep going, Bethesda. But I have to accept that there's a player base that loves this and thinks this is awesome. And that is not me, clearly. But also that even with these updates that should speak to my sensibilities, it's not capturing the feel of what I love about Fallout. And I just have to accept that that's it. I got to go back to New Vegas 3, 4. Like, I've been doing a quiet side New Vegas replay as I'm progressing towards this television show relaunch, because I want to do some content around New Vegas. And maybe I got a bit of that old school Bethesda bug in me, but even looking at Fallout 1 and 2, where we're trying to do some content around that, I'm just thinking about these games in all these different ways. And one of my favorite things about the Fallout franchise is how each entry does something a little bit different. But then I get to 76 and I realize it's just not hitting anywhere specific on the board. And it's upsetting because I feel, again, this update is exactly what I was asking for. But the fact that exploration, which is the one thing I've always defended 76 on and said, like, hey, this map ain't bad. Like, that's not the problem here. This sense of exploration is better than what Starfield brought to the table. Like, they got something here. The fact that when you bring us to a new location, it almost feels as if that's an afterthought, to the point where we couldn't even get a little localized map for these new locations, just says to me that this is more of a stopgap piece of content. And the only reason I would say it worries me a bit is we did have that leak for Fallout 76, which showed old Fallout 3 content, like DuPont Circle, I think it was. They had that in 76. And my fear is that they're going to channel a little bit of Fallout 3 energy in 76, and you can't do Fallout 3, which to me is like the pinnacle of video game exploration next to Skyrim. You can't do that in a half-measured way and be like, oh yeah, look, this is the place that you did an expedition in, except now you can roam with it, and there are NPCs here and there, except nothing's really happening. You're just kind of following your waypoints for your quests. That is just as bad, in my opinion, as what the problem was for many fans with expeditions, which is they thought these were going to be zones you go to, like the pit, and you get to explore and do a couple of quests. And I just feel like now you have this weird in-between moment. It's like you got to do either expeditions or the open world zone. My suggestion for anyone from the 76 or Bethesda team who ends up watching this video is, I would say, pick the open world lane and add expeditions to that. But I would say bringing us to new zones with PvE content, if you care about like the true Fallout player who is interested in that content, then you probably want to focus open world, focus on exploration, focus on loot, and then add the expeditions on top. I think because I was introduced to this zone through expeditions and then went back again here to do quests in the same zone, except this time there was like no exploration, it felt a little sour, where I think maybe if it was introduced in reverse, and obviously this is where game development's complicated because maybe one part of the project was ready before the other, but I feel like if these roles were reversed, I may have had an entirely different take here. And that's the key with live service. It's about timing. It's about content introduction. It's about how you present things and what you're doing within these new things you are presenting. And I feel like either if you did a whole combined update where it was like, hey, we have this new main quest and we have the expeditions, come check it out. Or if you did the open world first and then the expeditions, I feel like it would have softened the blow, or in the case of combining it all, I think you would have just had a real winner here, because my problem with just expeditions was this feels half measured, and that's doubly so now because now we're in between on both. So you got to commit to one lane or the other. I think expeditions was a good stopgap until you figured out how to do open world explorable zones that you could add to 76. Now that you seem to have that figured out, let expeditions be the add-on to these new locations then rather the centerpiece, because I think then you're building around the wrong part of a Fallout game, which is always the world space and the lore and what happened to the people in this area and how are they transforming society to now exist in this post-apocalyptic world. So that is my waxing poetic on the future of Fallout 76. I really am hoping that with the map expansion toward, I think, the end of this year, that they do something special with it. But the spiritual awakening I had was like, yeah, it's not for me. And when we get to that point in the year and I do naturally re-download the game, because I'm not going to sit here and tell you all and go all extreme YouTuber and say, I'm done with 76. I'm not stupid. I know I love Fallout. I know I'm going to see the next update and I'm going to go, oh, well, I could go for a little Fallout. Let me just see, right? I know better in that regard that I will end up checking it out. But what I'm not going to kid myself into thinking anymore until 76 shows me otherwise is that, oh, yeah, like this is going to be the big update that changes the whole entire direction of the game. Foolish, naive, whatever you want to call it. Sure, I'll own it. But yeah, this update wasn't bad. Just I'm realizing now how everything's consistently a half step away from where I want it to be. And so, yeah, hopefully you walked away with a better understanding of where 76 is. Hopefully Bethesda gets to see this and maybe reorient how they lay out content moving forward. But I look forward to hearing your thoughts down below. Please do fire away. Other than that, take excellent care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next video. Stay sexy, stay active, I love you all. Peace.